It in, struggling from behind the arc.
Jordan ball! RYSHEED Jordan!
RYSHEED Jordan, born June 10th, 1994. Just to put this story into perspective, take a look at this list and help me go through names you may remember. Find it difficult? So do I. There's so many players that make these lists that don't make it to the NBA, and much more outside of this list as well. And this is just point guards, and also one high school class. Seeing as we won't pretend to be naive and think we're all supposed to make it to that level, I think we should at least try. Why not? What's wrong with the mindset of wanting to be the best at what you do? As long as you remember that making it there is not promised, and most importantly, not the end of life. Today's feature is the perfect example of everything mentioned and much more. Thanks to my Air 54, I became aware, and thanks to relating to a lot of what RYSHEED went through, I was captivated by his story. When God gives you a talent, you gotta run with it. RYSHEED Jordan. A handful of words that reminds me of other sayings I'm sure we all heard from our elders hooping as a child. Things like hard work beats talent, attitude determines altitude, don't mistake activity for achievement. All very real words in hindsight that I think most kids maybe hear too much to understand. They are not just to make you do what the coach tells you. If only RYSHEED adhered to his own words, because talent is not something he lacked. He was a top 10 recruit at his position in 2013, named the state and city player of the year as a senior, and went on to St. John's, where he had a shot at being an NBA draft pick. At an athletic 6'4" with Philly pedigree, Jordan, I'm sure, would have been taken at some point and could have carved out a nice NBA career, running with his God-given talent. Instead, he's playing in the ABA, having not too long ago been released from prison after serving almost 4 years for attempted murder, robbery, criminal conspiracy, assault, and a few misdemeanors. At now 27 years old, the NBA seems more like a pipe dream at this point, and for the near future, the ABA may be his residence, due to him being unable to leave the Philadelphia area in compliance with his release. A far cry from what many saw him becoming when he chose the Red Storm over hometown Temple and powerhouse UCLA. He hopes to stray kids from the path he took, and hopefully his story can aid in that desire. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. RYSHEED Jordan is a 6'4" point guard shooting guard from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, North Philly to be exact. A place his little brother, who idolized him, remember as comparable to crabs in a basket. No one wants to see you doing better than them, so at every chance they get, they try to pull you down with the rest. Nevertheless, he was a star at Robert Vaux High School, even being ranked in the top 20 at some point and top 3 rated point guard. His high school was the small, in-neighborhood school that didn't have a player on its roster taller than RYSHEED, was heavily underfunded, and was supposed to close down after Jordan's senior year, which it did. Jordan was advised to transfer to a prep school with more notoriety and better training to develop his skills, but his loyalty and desire to stay close to his neighborhood and family was something he couldn't part with. It may have been a vital reason everything that happened did. Stunt number 1, outside distractions.
And I would tell him all the time, I'm like, RYSHEED, man, if you could just stay in New York for a month straight, you'll be rich beyond your wildest imagination.
We see this far too many times, where a player just has too much on his plate to have the success he should in the small window he's afforded. Jordan is the oldest of 7 children, single-parent household, and a loyal one to make sure his brothers and sisters were kept safe and on top of their schoolwork. Every day after school, he'd rush to pick them up from class, take them home, prepare a snack, sandwiches preferably, get them started on their homework, then rush back to basketball practice all within an hour. In the household, he was like the father. This was his job, and one he took great pride in. Dominating on the basketball floor was something else he wanted to do for himself, but after the Prince of Philly name was given to him, he felt obligated to take the neighborhood along for the journey. By all accounts, RYSHEED was not a street guy, but growing up in Philly, as soon as you stepped outside, there were trappings and influences, usually negative. Seeing as he was known for his playground play just as much as organized ball, he saw his fair share of distractions. Drugs, violence, corrupt police, and like mentioned earlier, crabs that wanted to keep him grounded with the rest. Another huge distraction that weighed on his mind heavily was his mother's heart problems that could take a turn for the worse at any time, and just like that, she could be gone. With those distractions involved, he used basketball as a way to get away from it all, and it worked. He became the State Player of the Year in 2012-13, three-time All-State performer, and averaged 24.8 points and 6.1 rebounds per game, winning the school's first PIAA Class A state championship. His top schools were UCLA, Temple, Syracuse, and of course St. John's, who he ultimately went with because it was far enough to escape Philly, but close enough to return when needed. And return is something constantly on his mind as soon as he left. Before his freshman season, his cousin was shot and killed in a police-involved incident while he was with the team in Paris that brought him to tears in his hotel lobby. He was already homesick. After the season, his mom had emergency open heart surgery that had him leaving school 4 times a week to be with her. He'd be late to practice often as the team waited for him to begin on many occasions. Later, after a game versus Villanova, he learned his aunt had been shot and killed back home that took even more of a toll on his own heart. Emotionally and physically, he wasn't focused on the task at hand, understandably, as it also began to hurt his academic eligibility. Stunt number 2, being forced to leave school early. By the end of his sophomore season, so much had and was still going on back home that the threat of his academic status became a reality. He averaged 10 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds, along with a steal a game as a freshman. Then became the second leading scorer at 14 a game and led the team in assists as a sophomore. By the second semester of that year, his grades had slipped to a point he would not have been eligible for the start of the fall season. With everything going on at home, his family needing their rock present more often, his mother's medical care expenses, Steve Lavin, his coach, leaving the school, and now his grades, he decided to leave for the NBA or professional opportunity. He was projected to be a first-round pick or possibly higher depending on his combine showing. For some reason, he missed the application deadline for the NBA draft, so wouldn't have been eligible either way. He was drafted by the Delaware 87ers of the NBA D-League for the 2015 season near his old neighborhood. He was released after 11 games for inadequate play. Had he been able to stay focused and stay in school where his game needed obvious work all around, he could have been a possible lottery pick and savior for his family. Instead, something contrary happened. Stunt number 3, attempted murder.
So what's the message you're trying to give to you?
I'm just trying to basically I just want to be there for him. I just don't want to make my mistake that I made, because the mistake that I made was a bad mistake. It was a wrong mistake.
His third major growth stunt happened on Memorial Day weekend 2016 and may have been the nail in the coffin to his NBA career. He was sitting in a car with some friends where it's unclear who was the drug dealer approached by 2 men looking to purchase some weed. Allegedly, Jordan's crew tried to rob the men as they ran away. One was shot in the arm. According to whoever told, Jordan was the shooter. A few days went by, and as Jordan ran a red light at 2 a.m. in the morning, police attempted to pull his car over, but he jumped out and fled after an initial car chase. He was hawked down by police, arrested, and charged with multiple offenses. robbery, criminal conspiracy, weapons charges, and attempted murder. They found a gun with a missing serial number and 5 live rounds. His trial didn't begin for 16 months after his arrest. He confessed to a video of the murder and faced 20 years. He took a plea deal, resulting in him serving 3.5 years behind bars. None of his friends were arrested. 2 months before he came home, his mother passed away from heart problems. RYSHEED was devastated, but life didn't end. He decided to keep pursuing the goals he and his mom spoke about, and now also speaks to kids at schools often about his experience, hoping he can steer at least one young person away from his outcome. All in all, although it felt like RYSHEED's story kept getting worse, he's still a very young man on this earth. He's in the minority of former players and street guys that can relate and communicate with the young people today and is using that position to help. I can't be more supportive. He had to become a man early. Unfortunately, too much was going on for him to focus on learning how to refine that man he wanted to be. Good thing is, he still has a chance. Let's see what he does with it. Salute to him, much respect, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.